fifth in our series of Tomorrow is Beautiful webinars. Fantastic having you all here. We trust that everybody is safe and warm. And by the way, if you're keeping tab of this, today is the 82nd day of our lockdown here in South Africa. We've celebrated Youth Day yesterday. I hope you had a phenomenal day yesterday in celebrating our youth and just being reminded again of the responsibility on us to really invest in our youth and to pour our beings into them, to develop them, because colleagues, they are our next generation of leaders. So very, very important. Now today, the main attraction, Dr. Manti Grobler. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you going to share some of your insights today, specifically around the topic of developing a design thinking mentality as senior leadership. So as I said, this is the fifth in our series. We're really looking forward to what transpires today. By means of introduction, Dr. Manti Grobler is passionate about the potential of design thinking to solve business challenges, foster engagement, and move people from apathy to empathy. Very important. She applied design thinking in her doctoral research, teaches the methodology, and helps organizations to develop design thinking capabilities. And in addition to a design thinking practice, Manti leads design thinking at Milpark and coaches people on their development journeys through integral coaching and Barrett values-based coaching. He understands the new world of work very intimately, this in the digital age, and describes what she does as meaningful work, something she hopes more people will experience. Friends, colleagues, it's my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Manti Grobler. Manti, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kobus. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all warm if you're in Joburg facing the cold weather like I do. And I really appreciate you all sharing your time with us this morning. So the topic of today is developing a design thinking mentality as senior leadership. It's a topic that I feel quite excited about because it makes us reflect on how we use design thinking, or how we embed design thinking in what we do, not just as an approach or methodology that we now and then pull off the shelf, but it's actually incorporating design thinking as a way of how we behave and how we go about with our teams. So we had a quick poll set up in the morning, and I encourage you, if you haven't clicked on the poll yet, to try it out, to give me an idea of how you've your experience with design thinking, or how much. So I can already see that there's nobody that says that's in my category of life without, can't imagine life without design thinking. There's some that's got design thinking on special occasions, which means on a special project or now and then. Some people who are familiar with design thinking but don't really actively use it, and then quite a few people who say design thinking is new to them. So brilliant. I love seeing that my people are here, my people who also love design thinking. Thank you so much for that. So let's start. So if we think about design thinking, just to kind of define it and set a scene, the most important thing that you need to remember is that design thinking starts with a challenge. There's a problem of some sort. There's something that you would like to resolve, that you need to tackle, to find a solution about. And the most important for me, one of the characteristics of design thinking that's so unique, is that it really focuses on the needs of people. So the question that designers will ask, and if there's anybody here that's been in one of my classes, I'd love to see you giving a shout out on the chat if you've been through the DTP's class at Milpark. and you would I think you would agree with me. The most often question I ask is, who are you designing for? To really have that focus and that mindset on people and the needs of people. If we then move forward, we can see that that design thinking teaches us to first pause at the challenge and ask. It's where we gather our evidence, where we connect with who are we designing for, where we really ask those questions to gather as much as we can about the challenge. Moving from that, we then go into unpacking and imagining possibilities. And design thinking gives you permission to dream. It gives you permission to use imagination. It gives you permission to really ideate and think about the art of the possible and coming up, moving from a deep understanding of the problem space into the potential of possibilities. And we imagine solutions that we can then take forward into making those solutions visible. And if there's two, what I always think about the bookends of design thinking, it is bookended, hold up together by focusing on people, the needs of people, and then this mindset of how can we make our ideas visible. And the beauty of that is once we make our solution visible, we can show it to people and we can get real good feedback so that we can decide whether we need to traverse back into the process, or whether we have a solution that we can then take forward and implement. And the best thing with or one of the key elements of design thinking is that we need to think about that that it's not a linear process. We don't start with necessarily with kind of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 and rush for it. There's learning, and there's a mindset of learning from feedback and going and making decisions then. But at some point we then can then exit and go forward with the decision that we make. So let's just pause and look at each of these steps in our process and unpack that and see how does that all lead into a mentality for leadership. So if we can agree that design thinking is a creative way to solve problems and it starts with people and their needs, the first place where we start off with is then having this very clear description of the challenge and asking ourselves, but who is this for? Who are we designing for? And why does it matter to them? And what do we want them to achieve, or what do we want to achieve by implementing our solution? So the whole process here is that we describe the problem very, very clearly. We articulate the problem by asking a how might we question, which open us to possibility. So as a leader, we can see how approaching this focus on who are we designing for, and really putting your people at the center of problem solving. You need to give yourself permission to be vulnerable and to adopt a beginner's mindset. And what we mean by a beginner's mindset is that focus where you can say, well, it's okay not to know everything. And I think we have a lot of pressure on leadership that we often we think we need to know all the answers, and we need to, we need to be self-sufficient. But with a beginner's mindset, and what design thinking teaches us is that it's actually okay not to know. And if you can adopt a curiosity and be excited, imagine learning something new and have that openness and excitement of the learning process, finding more information where you need, but welcoming uncertainty, and as I said, just be open to whatever you're going to explore, it takes you much further. We use techniques like I wish and what if to explore possibilities. And thinking of that, how you can apply that in your team, just opens possibilities and including more people in your process. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned through applying design thinking is that you do need to trust the process. Even though design thinking or starting on a design thinking process can be quite messy, it can be quite uncertain. You don't know what you're going to explore. Believe me, the solutions will come. So you need to trust the process and be okay with uncertainty to move you forward. So the challenge that we're going to focus on today, just as a bit of an engagement, is how might we improve virtual team meetings so that we are more engaged and experience connection. And I hope that's something that you all can relate to. I'm surely have my share of Teams and Zoom calls these past months, and I know what that could feel like. So just keep that in the back of your mind of what can we do to improve the connection of feeling engaged in virtual team meetings. So once we've set a clear challenge and we are very clear on what are we solving for and who are we solving for, we can then move into the next phase in the design thinking process, which is asking questions that to discover what people really want. So a design thinking mindset really, really helps you to keep the people you're designing for central as a central theme, and making sure that you're focusing on people. We know that with design thinking, we get to talk people, we get to gather information, we learn how to really observe. And I like this way of thinking about observation as a way of listening with your eyes, like really looking of what people do, how people behave, what can you learn in the context of the design challenge. And we have tools to help you to capture your observations that becomes meaningful information in the process. Most importantly, and this is a challenge that we often find, is that we stay in the beginning, we stay in the problem space. We don't rush into solution. And again, I think if anybody here has been in one of my classes, it will ring true where we say, you're in solutioning, come back, dig deeper, let's understand the problem space very well. Let's test our assumptions. Let's not rush into making assumptions that can bite us at the end. I think you all know that feeling where we rush into solutions without checking whether we are solving the real challenge. So as leaders, what this teaches us is that it allows us to connect with empathy to gain a deeper understanding. Now, empathy is one of the most powerful emotions that we can feel for people and with people. It's when we really understand, where we put ourselves in their position and we engage with empathy through and gain that deeper understanding. Once we have a deeper understanding, can you see how that will lead to better solutions? How the payback is really designing something that people will want to use and that really make a difference. So I can't stress enough how as leaders we need to allow ourselves to listen and to connect and to experience empathy with our people that we are working with. And engage. Design thinking has got this unintended consequence where it improves engagement, both from a leadership point of view, where we can connect and engage better with the people we are working with, as well as with people in our teams through design thinking, because it is a interactive, engaging, leading to deeper understanding process. Engagement at work is one of the well-researched and published benefits of design thinking. So definitely for me, it helps you with engagement. I can tick that off. It's a very good one. And then most important, stay curious about the problem. Be an explorer. Don't rush through this part of the process. And I think often as leaders in our workplace, we get overwhelmed and we get so busy that we forget to stay curious, or we forget to ask questions because of all the work that needs to be done, or of being comfortable in our space. Yes, I love that quote, Cobus. Curiosity is the beginning of wisdom. One of my taglines, it's courage, connectivity, and curiosity. I think that's a guiding light for me as well. Yeah, so let's have a quick question here. So can you list for me, is the question open? So if we look under the question here, if you can say list 3 things that engage people. What are the 3 things? It's just kind of off the side. What are the 3 things that you could list just off the top of my head, off the top of your head, that helps with engaging people? What would you say? Now, if you think about this, it could be anything. It could be like dancing. I mean, if you see people dancing is such a way that we engage with the moment, that we engage with the music, that we engage with people around us. So think about any 3 things that would engage people. What would that be? So anything, something they care about. That's very important. That's focus, right? What else? Common ground. Yes, we've got something kind of focusing on a common ground. Another one. What else? Meaningful conversation, team building activities, sports, board games. Very good. Okay, we're going to come back to this. So keep coming up with 3 things that engages people. We're going to come back to it. Images, something to look at, something to play with, goodies and things to explore. Yes, Lindy. Happy birthday, Lindy, by the way. I hope you have a good one. Thank you for joining us this morning. Lindy Scott is having her birthday, so wish we can all sing happy birthday to her. I'm not doing it on my own. Great. Yeah. The next, as you come up with your 3 things, the next step or space in the process of design thinking that we're going into is imagine. Now, I love imagine. I love just where it takes you, and if you give yourself permission to imagine, it is so powerful. It is allowing you to leave constraints behind you and just to ask, what if? So how we do it in design thinking is that we really draw inspiration from the challenge. Remember all the information that we've gathered, all the evidence that we're bringing into this space, and then we use techniques to push past the obvious solutions, to allow to think of real possibilities and get that breakthrough idea. So what we do is we really encourage diversity of people and ideas. We unpack what we know and we look for themes. We connect the dots, find patterns. We practice active listening, and it's a real art, right? I think we all can feel sometimes when we talk, you can see other people just ask, waiting for you to to pause or take a breath to come in and tell their story, or that you already think about the answer, what you want to say, and not really listening. There's nothing wrong with pausing when somebody has spoken before you answer. You don't have to jump right in. So we encourage that, practice active listening. And then we use a variety of tools to generate lots of ideas, and then select and develop ideas. And then we encourage people to be visual. There's nothing as powerful as a rough sketch to communicate ideas. So how does this play out in leadership? So what we've seen with leadership is the power in making space for everyone's ideas and introducing the concept of do-it-yourself solutions. So what do we mean by that? Often we fall into bad habits, into doing things the same way all the time. You'll find in a team that people start getting labeled. That's the person who always grabs the pen, who always stands at the whiteboard. That's the quiet one. That's the one that's always late. There's labels that gets to people. Whilst with a design thinking approach, we use tools and techniques. For example, silent brainstorming, where you bring in everybody to share their ideas, and we mix things up, and we allow engaged participation in the whole team. We bring in things like I said, DIY solutions, and what we've seen work so well with a lot of our clients is to have a space in your office, and we'll talk now about how it can be done in a virtual environment, but to have a space that if people come up with a problem, that you can say, okay, go to the DIY, design thinking DIY space, and unpack your problem using templates, using a space where you can brainstorm and work through solutions. And then when you have suggestions of how we can improve this, bring that back for discussion. So it changes the mindset of, this isn't working, I'm so unhappy, to, oh, okay, I can understand this better and I can contribute to finding a solution. It's a twist in how people approach problems. And we've seen one of the teams I worked with introduce this. They've had the luxury before lockdown to have a meeting room in their space where they created some basic templates to understand the problem, doing a quick mapping of the as is to the to be to the barriers, and they've laminated those templates and put it on the wall so it can be reused. So when somebody come up with a problem, they can walk through within an hour. They can walk through the problem and unpack that and have a contribution that they can bring to the team. So this is how you empower people to think. You empower people to come up with their own solutions, and you facilitate as a leader. You facilitate the process. The whole thing around that is that you try new approaches, you stay open for experimentation, and you allow imagining. So if we now look at the second question that we want to ask, just list 3 things that you would find in an office. So it can be a home office. It doesn't need to be a corporate office necessarily. So just list 3 things like you find in an office. For example, chairs. You'll find chairs in the office. What else? 3 random things that you'll find in an office. What do you think? Let's have a quick look at what do you say are those 3 things that you would ask. Desk, computer. That's a quick shooting, quick off the bat. Yeah, you'll find a pen as well. What else? Just see what else comes up. What are other things that you'll find? The telephone, yes, you always find a phone, some form of communication in an office. Coffee cup, notepad, laptop, internet, please. I'm very much unoccupied space at the moment. Paper clips, paper, mag, stationery. Lindy, always stationery. Yes. Yeah. So, yes, there's lots of things, chairs and whiteboards. Fantastic. So we're going to come back to these things that we've identified in a second. The next page that we go into with our design thinking approach is where we then take the solution that we've imagined in our imagined space, and we want to make it visible. We want to build a rough representation of the idea, and it is the best way to get feedback. It helps you to think. It helps you really to think through a solution. It's much more powerful than just describing it in words, because you can see it. And we use different techniques to do your prototyping. So from a process mapping, I'm sure you can all imagine a process mapping, to a role play where you try out the solution as a form of a role play, if it's a service process, for example, to making a gadget, to making a mock-up, to doing a mashup, to just see what is it that we're proposing and what is it that we want feedback, and how do we communicate that. So and then the next, once you've got your picture, your diagram, or your story that you've created for your story line, or your story, what do you call it, your frames, your storyline that you create, you then need to develop a story about why your solution matters. How would you talk about it? If you have to pitch your prototype to decision makers, why would they care? What is the story that you tell about your journey? And remember, it's an iterative process. It's the way that we ask for feedback, and what do we do about that? Now, the willingness to adopt this mindset of prototyping demonstrates real courage. Remember, we said curiosity, we touched on connection with people, and now we're looking at being courageous. It takes courage to make your idea visible. And as a leader, we need to embrace this. We need to say, how can we be willing to make our ideas visible and improve our communication, and then use the feedback. So often we invite feedback, right? And we say, how can we, or would you give me feedback on my idea? And people give you input and you don't use it. And for whatever reason, but show your people, your team, how to. Can we just go back to the other slide still? Thank you. Just to show how we can make our ideas visible, and how can we make whatever we're doing, how can we make it better? And I think if we have this mindset about how do we improve on whatever we do, how do we improve the thing that we're creating, the focusing on the artifact, on focusing on the solution that we are proving. It removes the focus on the people, on don't think it's criticizing us or us as input, but we are focusing on how do we make whatever the work is that we're doing, how do we make it better? So it's a mindset change. And remember, as I said, as we're looking now at the complete design thinking process, from defining our challenge and really focusing on who are we designing for, to the end here of showing our ideas and getting feedback, again, listening to people, that kind of brings the whole process together. So let's have a quick try and see how can we use design thinking in fun ways and kind of sprinkle it into how we do. So remember, I asked for 3 things from how do we engage people, and we had some interesting ones. We had relevancy, purpose, future vision. We had showing that you really care, focusing on challenges, images, something to look at, something to play with, things to explore. So choose 3 things. So whatever you would like to choose 3 things from the engaged list. And then look at the office list. So the office list, we had desk, chair, computer, pens, telephones, coffee cups. I hope full coffee cups, not empty coffee cups. Notepad, laptops, internet, unoccupied space, paper, stationery, paper clips and mugs, doors, chairs and whiteboards. Take random things, just try it out. So you'll have 3 things from the engaged list and 3 things from the office stuff list. So have you got your 3 things? And then we're doing a mash up. So whatever, and I'm calling now for your honesty. Okay, stay with me. So take engage item list 1 and pair it up with your office stuff list 3. Engage list item 2 with office stuff list item 1. Engage list item 3 with your office list item 2. And share on the chat what is your pairs. Some examples that we can just see some examples that you come up with. Remember, it's random. It doesn't have, don't go for logic here now, just random pairing of what comes up. So we'll have, for example, let's have a look about something that engages me is common ground, and something I find in an office is coffee cups. So common ground, coffee cups, that would be a pair as an example. So what is some of your pairs that you'll find? So we have here meaningful conversation and a desk. Good. What else? Come, show. Type. Let me see what other pairs people come up with. Relevancy and coffee cups. Yes, full one. Good one. I think everybody wants coffee. Good. So let's just see a couple of more. What other vision and a notepad? Very good. That's interesting. What else do you have as pairs? Remember, this is just it's an exercise for in ideation. So purpose. Everybody needs to have one, at least a pair that you can try out. The purpose in the whiteboard. Very good. Anything else? Team building and coffee cups. Coffee is strong, right? We all need coffee this morning. Ask questions and a stapler. Yeah, very, very interesting, Clovis. Purpose in the laptop, inclusion in colleagues. Very nice. Okay, so you all got the idea. You all have a pair of random 2 things that's quite random. Now the ask is focusing on our design challenge of how might we improve virtual team meetings so that we can experience more connection. Take your pair of random items like your inclusion and colleagues or your ask questions in the stapler and think and describe how could it possible add value to your challenge. So if you think about a purpose in a laptop, inclusion and colleagues, vision in a laptop, relevancy in a full coffee cup, how can that inspire you? And how can that add value to your challenge? What comes up for you? Great. So we have here, if I have a full coffee cup and a laptop at meetings, it makes for a productive one. I tend to agree that. Use mugs to vote, drink if you agree, and brilliant. Lindy, that is such a good idea, because what that means is, first of all, you have meetings with video on, because you have to see. You have to see people, and it's like drawing inspiration from a drinking game. Not that I know anything about drinking games, but but if you think about how you can anything that you can do to bring in some fun or to bring in some focus and engagement into your meetings will definitely make a benefit. Okay, so we have here getting different ideas from the team for a solution and constructive feedback, brainstorming, getting ideas while sitting at a desk, meaningful conversations at a desk. Yes. Good one, Lindy. I'll give you that one. So yeah, but can you see how it's actually a fun way to make you think? So let's just take a quick look at this example. So remember, the tool that we used here is called the Mash app. How do you take random ideas to inspire you to think about unusual things that you might do that you wouldn't have really considered, using notepads to brainstorm and write up thoughts while at meetings. Yeah, Larissa, and imagine now going into a virtual or an online type notepad where people co-create that brainstorming. So there's amazing tools out there. And even if you work, for example, I know a lot of people use Microsoft Teams. You can, for example, edit a PowerPoint slide together as a team, and everybody add their text and box. So as a stapler enables the staple to unite loose pages into a unified pack, so a leader can enable cohesion and unification around a common goal. That's deep. Very good, Cobus. I'm going to quote you on that one. That's a very nice one that we can draw inspiration from. Yeah. So see how it can just lead you or helps you to think about it. So just an example here, things that engage people. For example, when we share stories, when we do exercise, when we have a role to participate in the session that definitely engages people. Things that are found in the office is stationery, coffee, see my thinking as well, and obviously technology. So if I had to pair up, I could pair up exercise and technology as a pair. And I have to think about now, how can exercise and technology help to improve virtual team meetings? And often one of the biggest complaints that I get in people I work with is that we sit now literally from meeting to meeting to meeting. There's no going up, standing or walking to a different meeting. We just sit the whole day. And some days are so packed that you barely have time to get up for that cup of coffee. So imagine in your team meeting, taking a minute to say to everybody, well, let's all get up and play a song and dance, or march at the spot, or just stretch, just lead your team through a 3-minute kind of, just let's stretch the arms out. Let's just, oh, that feels good. Just stretch it out, or just do a breathing. Just lead your team for a minute, deep breathing, and it just sets a different tone. So I hope this is give you some just a little fun way of going. So in wrap up, I just wanted to summarize the points that we discussed today. That's drawing from the design thinking methodology, or the approach of design thinking, of how we can learn from from design thinking as leaders. And I would encourage you to select 3 of these design thinking inspired behaviors. What are 3 of these that you can take away and that you can think, I'm going to try that out? Or maybe I'm just going to do a mashup in one of the calls and see how can that help us to ideate, to come up with solutions in a novel way. But yeah, my call to action for you is to really consider how we can improve our connection, how we can really engage with our teams, how we can demonstrate courage in leading with sharing our ideas, making our ideas visible, and most importantly, let's imagine this beautiful future that we have. So, Cobus, I'm going to hand back to you if there's any questions. And Lindy, I'm really curious about squat o'clock. I'm sure that means everybody needs to do a couple of squats. I'm worried I won't be able to get up from the floor if that's my squat o'clock.
Wow, there we go. That was absolutely amazing. I'm so amped at the moment. The creative juice is flowing and so forth. Monty, thank you so much. Succinctly, you've provided us with tangible, practical stuff that we can use on a day-to-day basis. Really, I think in the times that we find ourselves at the moment, design thinking approaches or methodologies is in my view, so needed. Just thinking on your concept, the concept of imagining, how powerful that is, and really to give yourself the permission, me and my team, the permission to really imagine, and what we are also experimenting with as a team is experimentation. So people are allowed to make mistakes, and we learn from them. How would we know if we didn't experiment? Really understanding also that this is not kind of a linear process, as you've noted in the beginning of your discussion. And I'm thinking, and this quote probably very well, everyone, of Einstein, and today you can say it's from Einstein. That logic will get you from A to Z, but it's imagination that will take us everywhere, no matter where. Thank you so much. I invite people to ask. I don't see any questions in our question poll, but I really believe we've all had a fulfilling morning, and just the exercises that you've drawn us into, these little exercises have where initially you feel kind of despondent, or you don't know, okay. So, but allowing yourself. Absolutely. So, and the challenge that you've posed to us, maybe you must check in on us again soon to say, okay, share with us your changes and your breakthroughs and everything else, solutions that you've achieved by means of applying this. So, Monty, from my side, I really thank you very much. Colleagues, if there's anything out there, oh, there we go, Karen. What's that? Squat o'clock. I like that one. Where one of our clients does a squat o'clock. All right, Lindy, fantastic. I don't know actually, but we are, but I know what a squat is.
I'll go for stretch o'clock. Let's just stretch the arms out as a start.
Yeah, absolutely. The mashup method, that's it immediately takes you into a cognitive realm that you're not accustomed to. There's these paradoxes and things that from logic just doesn't fit together. I mean, how can I ask you probing questions to involve people? And a stapler. I mean, goodness, how can I mash those two up to get me a kind of so fantastic? And I think we really need to apply that more and more. Any other observations there from you colleagues? I don't see any. No other questions. well, then I suppose we are going to call it a day, Monty. Again, thank you so much. And everyone that attended, thank you for the laughs. Lindy, you must have a spectacular birthday. This we can have a toast on you. And then please remember our little survey monkey, where our feedback, we really need that to also improve, because we're also experimenting in things that we are currently, as we are doing today. So please, your feedback is very important to us. But each and every all the best. Really start applying these things. Looking forward to seeing you on this channel again next week. And yeah, love you lots. Take care and be safe. Bye-bye.